Hello and welcome to What's in Your Head, a new podcast from Hill University aimed at encouraging conversations about exactly that, what's in your head. In the first series of podcasts under this umbrella, we want to help normalise talking about mental health, covering the highs and lows and the everyday experiences we all face. We hope to help, we hope to inspire and of course be interesting and entertaining along the way. I'm Gareth Roberts and today I'm joined by former Premier League goalkeeper Chris Kirkland and his wife Leona. Thanks very much for joining us in the studio today. Chris is going to be opening up today about his mental health journey and Leona is going to share her experience of supporting him through it. But first, Chris, this podcast isn't just about you today. You're co-hosting this series moving forward and we've got plans for some amazing guests. But before we dive into your story, let's talk about why you're so passionate about this project. In July, Hill University awarded you an honorary doctorate for your work around mental health, and this podcast is part of the promise you made to keep the conversation going. So why are you motivated to do this? Why do you want to get involved?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I was incredibly honoured to get the doctorate. I don't think any of us did. We had no idea how big it was. Yeah. Honestly, we literally turned up, thought I was going to be getting like a handshake and a certificate, yeah. and then you get taken in like the hall and everything. Then there's going to be like 1,000 people. So I had no idea, and that's not being disrespectful or anything like that. But it was just incredible. Yeah, the whole day was just amazing. So to have the girls there and to see what it meant was very special. So yeah, again, thank you, massive thank you to Hill for that. And then with the mental health, I just think I want to help first and foremost. It feels the right thing to do. It's not, I get asked this a lot. Why do you do what you do? Why do you do so much what you do? Just feels right. Just feels right. Listen, I got the help I needed it when I really needed it. And when I was ready to accept it, because you get to a certain point when you hit rock bottom and it's one. I call it the seesaw moment. I got to that point and I accepted the help, and now that's what I do what I do now. And hopefully it does help people. The amount of messages I get, the amount of interactions I have with people, it seems to help them. So I'll just carry on doing what I can.
And it's important, isn't it, to just normalise this. A lot of us, if not all of us, go through times where we're down, where we're low, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with talking about that, is there?
And I think after COVID, listen, it should have always been in the domain for me. It's always been there. Mental health's always been there. I go back to, my dad's dad committed suicide back in the 80s through depression and obviously committed suicide. So it's always been there. But I think in the last probably 3 or 4 years, people are more comfortable talking about it now. You turn on the TV, the radio, there's always something more or less every single day now around mental health, depression, addiction. And that's the way it should be. And people have got to realise if you are going through it, if you are struggling, don't be ashamed. It's okay. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed. Scared. People are scared. They're going to be scared. But once you do ask for that help, and once you realise, I feel a little bit better here because I've asked for help. I felt a massive weight off my shoulders when I did it. I just felt a big relief. And people, I think people are realising that now, that it's the more they talk. It's that initial conversation. It's that initial, and that's the hardest bit. That's the hardest thing. Asking for, telling someone whatever it is, mental health, addiction. I was more scared of probably the addiction side of things, admitting I had an addiction to painkillers, than the mental health side of it. Once you are brave enough and you ask for that, it is a huge relief. And listen, it's not over then. It doesn't cure everything. It doesn't. That's not the fix. As soon as you ask for help, there's a lot of hard work that then goes into it. But knowing you've got support around you gives you hope.
And there's big picture stuff as well, isn't there? You talked about in your speech when you got your honorary doctorate about you'd like it to see it discussed in every school in the country. And you've said to me before you don't sort of fully understand why it isn't already, but you've got involved in projects with that locally, St Bede's, Make Talk Your Goal. That's brilliant. And so as a father myself, I want to say thanks to you for enabling that to start happening, because I think my children should be taught about it. I think everyone's children should be, and we do need to reach that point where it's not something people are keeping to themselves. No. They know it's normal.
It's a normal thing. It should be.
You said it earlier about the schools, didn't you?
Yeah, it should come in at an early age for me. Obviously we are, I didn't understand mental health, and I'll openly admit that. I thought we all have down days, but now that I've learnt so much more, I don't understand why they don't learn from literally
early as possible.
As early,
People say
primary
what's
schools.
like.
You
Listen,
know.
I always come back to it. I won't mention names, but I had somebody come up to us in the gym. It was about their son, and said, "Look, would you have a word?" He tried to commit suicide last weekend. We're not sure what to do, and I asked how old the son was, and they said the son was 9 years old. So people say, "Well, it's too early getting into schools. It's 7, 8 years old." It's not. No. It's not. Yeah. Because there's proof and facts.
It's the same as Lucy, our daughter. She was doing a work experience thing, and she was in a primary school. Now this little girl was 7, 8 years old, and they were doing sort of, they had to write down how they were feeling, if they were sad, and she wrote down, I hate myself, things like that. You're supposed to throw it away and forget about it. And she said, well, that's rubbish because I've wrote the same thing every week and it's not going away. Yeah. So, and this little girl was 7, 8 years old. So it should be in primary schools because you're affected at any age.
I'm not on about going, bang, this is mental health, this is suicide. But just gradually introducing it, and then obviously the older they get and stuff like that. So for me, it should be, I don't know why, well, your guess is as good as mine, but it should be in every school. It should be on the curriculum without a shadow of a doubt. And hopefully, I think we're starting to hopefully get there.
Absolutely, there are things happening, and hopefully they continue to do so. Just getting into your story, Chris. From the outside looking at him once upon a time, obviously you played for Liverpool, you played for Wigan Athletic, you played in the Premier League, etc., etc. From the outside looking in, people might have looked at you and said, he's got everything there. He's living the dream. He's got a nice house. He's got a nice car. He's got a nice family. And I think that's the lesson, isn't it? That
wife could have been better, but
he's brave. Yeah.
But that's the lesson, isn't it? That what you see on the outside is not a sign about what's going on inside. No. And anyone can struggle with the mental health.
Yeah, and it was. Listen, until I started back in 97. And it wasn't until 2012. So, I had 15 years, everything, you go through bits and you have stuff with family and stuff, but I never suffered with depression or mental health until probably 2000.
Yeah, but you do wonder if like that perfect life, the perfect career, it's everything that comes with that, the pressures, they work on you over time, and you... Possibly. And I think that's what we learnt when it all came crashing down, that you had basically been putting all those worries in the bucket and it was building up, and one day it just explodes because you can't keep it.
I think the biggest thing as well was a change of routine. I spoke about it. So we moved here in 2001. We both moved up together. I was here Liverpool for 5 years, Wigan for 6, live in the same area. 15 minutes to Liverpool, 15 minutes to Wigan. And then all of a sudden, 2012, I was travelling to and from Sheffield and my routine completely changed. And people say, well, you're still playing football. But it was all the stuff back home. It was missing the school plays, dropping Lucy off at school, picking her up, walking the dog in the afternoons. All the stuff that I'd been used to, which was my routine for 11 years, was gone. I was in the car. First thing, like people have to do, I'm not saying, because I had to get up early and stuff. I was in at Sheffield at 7:15 in the morning to beat the traffic. There was no one there. I was coming back late, I was getting back when it was dark, I was missing all the more important things in football. Football was still there, training was still there, matches were still there, but it was everything else that was gone, and I just started to think, I don't like this. I don't like, and in fact, when I first signed for Sheffield Wednesday, after about a week, I rang them and said, look, I need my contract ripping up.
Yeah, I can't do this.
Leona's, my wife's struggling with depression.
They used me,
so we said it was Leona that was struggling.
Because again, it was back to that whole,
I thought, I can't say it was me.
I thought,
I can't come out and say it's me, just signed for the club. And this was back, 14 years ago. So I thought, it wasn't talked about much then, was it? So we said it was Leona. So the club were amazing. They said, look, take the week, we're going on pre-season, you don't have to come, take the week, come back in, we'll have chats. And they were unbelievable. And they made it possible at the start by saying, look, you don't have to come in days after games, you don't have to do this. But still, every time I was travelling over, it was I just didn't enjoy it at all. It's not an easy journey getting to Sheffield as well. Like the route you have to take, it's full of traffic. That's probably
when I noticed the changes, quite significantly. He'd be coming home and he was like a different person.
Didn't want to do anything.
Wouldn't do anything. He started shutting the blinds in the middle of the day, locking the door. He just didn't want anyone. And I'd be thinking,
my thought was when I was getting back was, right, I've got to be up at this time tomorrow. Need to get my stuff ready, can't do this, I'm going to be back at that time tomorrow night, I'm going to miss this, I'm going to miss it. It was more what I was going to miss. So if Lucy had a school play or she had, but whatever, it was more what I was going to miss.
But then it got to the point where he was finding the excuses to get out of doing the things that he could have done, but he'd be like, oh no, I need to be up at that time, or I've got to train, I've got a match this time, I can't do it. So he was, even though he could have made some of those things, he was finding excuses to get away from it.
Which something we did before. Like, so again, we used to meet
we weren't party animals, let's face it. We've never been party animals.
But we used to do stuff with something, particularly at Wigan, we used to all meet as the families, didn't we?
And that just became, it would be like me
but
going
then
off
obviously
myself.
the biggest thing was obviously the painkillers then. So just first, so when I went to Sheffield Wednesday, a lot of people don't know, is my last 2 years at Wigan, I was fit, I just wasn't playing. You know, I was fit more or less all my time at Wigan. Went to Sheffield Wednesday and they said, look, obviously you're back and stuff, which wasn't an issue at all, and I knew it wasn't. So there was a clause put in the contract. If I missed 4 games, they could rip the deal up, which wasn't put in public, obviously. So bearing in mind you can play Saturday, Tuesday, 10 days, I could have been, you know, gone. So, but I said, listen, that's fine. I said, I know there's no issues with my back, and ended up playing every single game. But ironically, 2 days before the first game, I got a twinge in my back. I thought, oh my God, if I don't play Saturday, they're going to think, you know. So again, that was on my mind. So I got hold of some painkillers, and what they did was they took the pain away, but also made me less anxious. And I thought, oh, I can use these just when I travel over to and from Sheffield, which you do, and everything was good. But then you start depending more and more on you, using more and more. But then eventually they just change the way you're thinking and mess you up mentally, which they did over, you know, the first year weren't too bad, but then the second season, and particularly the third season, was just, I was in such a bad way.
There's a thing in there that I took from what you both just said there, in that you almost both felt that you needed to present in a certain way, as a certain person, almost like, you know, Superman, goalkeeper. I don't have down days, I haven't got any problems, here I am. And you know, you're almost worried to actually say to the club that.
But I didn't agree with that. I was very vocal. I was like,
she said, no, you've got to say it's you.
No, I said, why are you saying it's me? What's, you know, it's not. You know, you're not no one's perfect.
No one is,
why?
exactly.
Why?
And listen, knowing now, if I'd have gone to the club, they'd have been unbelievable. There'd have been no problem at all. But you get something in your head thinking, you can't do that.
But I think because you hadn't heard of it. No one had really, you know, it never happened before. So it was like, you can't speak.
The first year, I didn't really know what I was. I knew I was struggling, but I didn't really understand it. Didn't really understand what I was thinking. I'll be okay next week. You know, I'll get used to the routine. I'll get used to travelling. I'll get used to this and all that. But it was more them with the painkillers. Obviously, becoming addicted. Probably after 3 months, I was taking more and more and more. That's when it started to change I think
what you said there, it's like you couldn't quite understand what was happening, and that was the same on my part, you know, because, you know, I'd never experienced it, I'd never known anyone that had experienced it, so I didn't know what was going on either. So, you know, that's why I think that you do need this education a lot more,
from Wigan
so you're a bit more.
You mentioned before, like I loved my time at Wigan. Probably my best, Liverpool fans stood on the court, amazing, but playing-wise was my best period at Wigan. Everything about it, we socialised with the kids, the families, life was, and then the rejection. You know, I got told I'd be at Wigan as long as I wanted to be, by a manager, and then literally at the end of the season, right, I don't want you anymore. You can go. And that rejection, I think, started thinking about it now. That definitely had an impact. Yeah.
Were there any points, Leona, where you know you started to challenge Chris over his behaviour, and maybe he wasn't on board with the way you were challenging him?
I would be, you know, because obviously I could see it and I'm thinking something's going on here, I don't know what's going on, you know, and I would ask him and I would say, do you want to tell me anything? Do you want to talk about anything? But whether it's just Chris as his personality or anyone would be the same, he's quite good at talking his way out of it almost, and I don't know if that's obviously a sign, you know, I can manipulate this situation a bit because I don't want to open up about it.
Well, you lie.
And he was very convincing. He was convincing, but as time went on, I was thinking, no, you know, it's not enough, and I would keep pushing it, and then obviously eventually
I knew what I was doing.
up.
I knew what I was doing with the pills was wrong, and I shouldn't be doing it. You know, I knew I was addicted, but I thought I can't say anything. You know, I can't say anything. They weren't banned. You know, you could take them. They weren't a banned substance. They are now. But I was just thinking, and I knew the way it was going. I knew it was going to end up in a real bad place. But once you're addicted to something, and you're doing it on your own without any support, it's impossible to stop. Tried many times.
I didn't know, and that's when I say that now, you know, because people say, "Did you not know? You must have known he was addicted to something." And I was thinking, absolutely not. You wouldn't. And whether it's back to that whole, what's it? that addiction thing, you've got an image in your head of what addiction looks like, and that wouldn't happen to us, you know. So I didn't see it, and I couldn't see it.
The one big thing with it, I remember saying it and fallingly like years ago. And when it's like somebody said to you, right, you either stop or you're going to die. I said, well, you stop. It's easy.
Yeah,
there's no choice. You stop. And I remember saying it many, many times. I used to read things in the paper. I was addicted to it. Well, if you're going to die or you stop, you stop. Simple as that. It's impossible. So without help, it was impossible.
So where was what was the moment where it turned out? What was the trigger for that?
So I mean, I got back. So I was coming. So I played the first year, which I got player of the season. Second year, and then the second year I was struggling through in games. I was thinking about getting home as soon as.
This is still Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday. I was thinking about getting home. I was thinking like during game. I was taking tablets during games. I had them in my bag at half time. And then the third season, the ball came West went in, so I wasn't going to play. He said, "Look, I'm not." And I was delighted, which he says everything you need to know, because I was delighted that I wasn't going to play because I didn't have the pressure of then playing. So then I had the chance to get back to after the first season and the second season. There was a chance for me to go back to Wigan, and I thought, yeah, I want to go back. And then they messed around the deal again, so I had to stay. I was going to come back in 2015, finish the season after 3 seasons. I was going to go back to Wigan again, and they messed me around again. Ended up signing for Preston because I thought getting back home, closer to home,
that'll fix
it.
Yeah.
That I could go back to my old routine. I could be home in the afternoons and stuff like that. But he didn't. I was too far gone then. So it was left Preston in 2016. Again, I was going to sign for them again. They said, right, come in and sign. We'll do a new deal for you. Didn't really want to, but I thought, well, yeah, I'll do it again. Went in to sign and said, oh, you're too old. We're going to sign someone else now. So you're feeling bad anyway, and you get these knocks. We lost our dog, Max.
Yeah, we
lost our Labrador after 40. My best, lost a friend's husband, best friend's husband. So all these knocks happened, and then I signed for Bury, and I just thought, something's going to happen here. And I knew something was going to happen, and I knew it needed to. So I signed for Bury thinking, and they were going away pre-season, and I was petrified about leaving the house. Just by this point, I didn't want to leave the house, and I thought, I can't go to Portugal. Like, something's going to happen. I got on the plane, don't know how I got out there, and then the second night I was just stood on a roof, and I took that many tablets out with me, and I took that many during the day. I just stood on the roof, thought, I just can't feel like this anymore, and I was going to jump, and I just felt like I was stood on the top of the apartment building. I just felt like a pull back, and there was no one there, but I knew it was like Leona and Lucy. And the dogs as well.
And you rang me, I still remember that.
And I just rang, it was about 2 a.m. I said, look, I'm addicted, I'm in a bad way.
I'm standing on a rooftop, that was the call I got back here in England, so it was like,
how was that to hear?
It was really, really difficult to hear, and he was just
So you just said, I just remember calm, she was calm, she just said, right, you need to come home.
Yeah,
get yourself home.
Yeah, and
so
then we'll
in the
sort
morning,
it,
she got us a flight back, sorted the flight back, got home, and then I went to the PFA. Said, I'm addicted to it. Didn't tell anyone else, just told them. But that was the first time. And then got off them. And then I tried to make another comeback at football, but my body weren't having it.
Yeah.
And then I started to miss being a footballer. So something you'd done for 20 years.
Yeah. And in hindsight, your head wasn't right.
No, it wasn't right.
Sorted out.
And I knew I was always going to go back onto it. I knew I was always going to go back. So I didn't go to rehab. I got off them and then started missing out. Went back on them. And then I ended up going to rehab in 2019. Again, didn't tell the real truth. It was mental health, yes, but it was addiction. Went to rehab, come out of rehab, was fine again. Yeah. Started doing bits with Liverpool Women, started doing bits with the foundation, and then lockdown hit. And I went back on them again and got to like serious levels again. But it was 17th of April 2022. Got some off the internet from India, but they weren't tramadol, there was some psychotic drugs, and just completely forgot who I was.
Couldn't get home.
Couldn't get home. Put sat nav home on the sat nav. Somebody told me just press home. Got home, slept for.
I remember that day because I didn't know again that he's back on them. That's the bit that I found really difficult, and I felt guilty for a long time because how could I not spot it? But I didn't, and I remember the day you came home. Now that obviously I know it was tramadol. You were violently sick. He just came in and he again convinced me. So good at it. It sounds awful to say, how easy it was to lie and how convincing he was to me. And he was violently sick and he slept for hours and hours on end. and then got up the next day and
woke up the
carried
next
on.
day, so that was the point where I thought, right, you've got to come out now and be honest about everything. But it was still, oh, you're going to die, simple as that. I thought that day I was going to die. My heart was pounding. I was having thoughts, like dark thoughts about stabbing myself and all this sort of stuff. But these drugs, they weren't tramadol. But that was the day after that. But it was still 3 weeks after that. So I got rid of the ones from India, but I still had some safe ones, I suppose you can say, from the doctors. But I knew that was a day eventually. And then 3 weeks after that, I broke down and just said, look, I'm addicted again. I need proper help this time. When I went to rehab in 2019, they tell you things, say, right, when you come out of here, it's like a bubble in here. When you come out, you're going to be in the real world. You need to set things up. They told me to get drug tests at home. They said, this will be a game changer. Get these. Didn't do it. Don't know why. Didn't do it. Didn't come out and tell everyone. Not for sympathy, but kept it all to myself. Probably because I thought, well, you're going to go back on them. But this time, 2022, come out and told the world.
And I was like, no,
well, we have to do
why?
things
We're not
now.
doing this anymore. I'm not keeping this just me and one other person.
And it wasn't
knowing
for
it's too
sympathy.
much.
Like
It's
people
not.
say, well, why? It wasn't for sympathy. It was just for the fact that I didn't want to hide in place. I wanted everyone to know so I could feel people looking at me and keep it in a strange way that keeps me in check. I didn't want to hide in place. I didn't want to chain on my back thinking, well, they don't know the real truth. So I've got to come out and tell the whole truth. If you're going to beat this.
But it finally made you realise that you have to do that to get better.
Oh yeah, without the help.
It wasn't work.
Yeah.
You can't keep it secret and think everything's going to be all right.
So the drug tests at home, we've got drug tests at home. They've been there ever since. They've probably been the biggest thing that's kept knowing they're there, knowing the thought. The thing that drives me now, and it's been over 2.5 years now, isn't it? The thing that drives me now is if I produced a positive test, seeing Leona's face and seeing Lucy's face would absolutely destroy me. So along with everything else, being honest, exercise, talking, doing stuff like all this sort of stuff, the drug tests, and that's what I advise to anyone now, anyone that I speak to now. I said, what's the one thing like that you would not be without now? It's a drug test. If it's alcohol, get a breathalyzer test at home. You know, if you're serious about beating addiction and getting better, you've got to go to the extreme lengths to do it. And then thankfully it's worked. And listen,
but there's been a huge weight and responsibility on you here,
Massive.
hasn't there?
Yeah.
So you're
couldn't have done it without her.
Exactly, you're administering drug tests, you're intercepting
and
the
that's
postman.
hard. It's hard to say
she has
to your
to watch,
husband,
by the
can
way,
you
as
do
well. Yeah, she has to pee in a cup line. She's
You have to intercept the
Really,
postman.
like, take the
He's
parcels.
told me about that
So
before.
yeah,
I mean, he's even shown me, that at one point he was cutting out a compartment in his car
Oh my
to
God,
hide things and stuff like that.
underneath, so
there's great lengths basically to hide this from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a huge weight on you. How have you coped? What's been your support network during all that?
Well, in the beginning, and I'll admit, we're sitting here, open up, talk to people. I didn't, because I'm I'm that type of person. I was very much right. Everything's falling apart here. Someone has to keep strong. I have to make sure he's okay. We were raised. Lucy was young at the time, so I sort of I got on with it, pretended to the outside world everything was okay for me, but then it came to a point where it got a bit like it was,
Understandably.
Yeah, and I wouldn't ever have gave up on it, never in a million years, but I realised actually I'm sitting here saying you need to talk to people. So do I, because it's from a different perspective, so it was, I had
I've never got through it without her, never. No, like I said, you could have, never, I was never violent or anything like that. I never, cheated or anything.
No, but there was,
there
was a few times,
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when
I could have...
rang me that, yeah. But I want to blame you, but you never did.
But no, I'm not. I would never have, because I knew that as much as he came across like he was a different person, he was there and there was still moments of, it's still Chris, he's still there, and it's just, we need to get him back, But like you said, I didn't get much help for myself in the beginning, I did try, but that's kind of what I'm a bit like that, and I just sort of like...
Lucy, kids are not daft as well. She knew something was wrong and stuff like that, but she said to me, didn't she, was it a couple of years ago, she said, I got Dad back now. She said, put it in a slightly different way, she said, I've got my annoying dad, might have been a few swear words in there.
Yeah, there was.
But she's, But now for me, I think that the hardest thing for you has been, like, as you said, how could I not see it? Because you look back on pictures now, you had a lot of guilt, didn't you?
Every time I see pictures now from that period, it really, I get this guilty feeling, how could I not have seen that? How stupid am I? You know, and started questioning myself. But that's the worrying thing, that you can easily be, you know, convinced that everything's fine, and
but that's not fair on yourself.
No,
yeah,
it's not.
And I knew that, like, now I'm learning now, so you know, it's taken me time to get back to who I was, because I started questioning everything about myself. How could I have not seen he's been hiding under bits in his car? And
well, you went for counselling as well, didn't you, to get through it and stuff?
Yeah, and I'd go to a couple of sessions with Chris, and it really helped me. But I did find that eventually friends were there and things like that. Obviously, my family and my friends were great, but I found that I was wishing for someone who was in the same position as me, not someone else, like, you know, that was married to someone, or just someone within their family, because as much your friends help you and your family do, but you need someone that's in the same position. And I do think that's a big thing that needs to be, because I didn't know anyone that was in a similar position, no support groups for the other part of it, not the person that's got the depression or the anxiety or the addiction, the person that's supporting.
That's the one thing,
Because
the one
really
thing that I've known. Going through it yourself, like, what, it is horrendous, but now I'm clean and everything, and I wouldn't say, like, focus more. I can see what I did to them now, or how hard it must have been to them. Particularly the owner. Lucy was obviously a bit younger then, but I can see and that's the big driving force now.
But how hard was it for you to, you know, present as vulnerable to the wider world? Because you're meant to be...
I was ready for it.
But you're meant to be Chris Kirkland, 6'6",
Do you know
Premier
what?
League goalkeeper.
You get to a point, we spoke about it, you get to a point, I knew I had to. Not just for me, but for them as well. But I just got to the point where I knew years before what I should have done. Should have done in 2022. We should have done that at the start, back in 2016, 15, 16, when I retired from football through mental health and addiction. But obviously didn't say about the addiction. But it just felt the right thing to do. I knew I needed to do it. Yeah, it was going to happen
But
eventually.
culturally, that's still something that we all need to challenge, isn't it?
Yeah,
that,
you know,
the man has to be the
I still get
man
asked that
and all
now,
this
like,
kind of thing.
still get asked that now. People say, do you not feel embarrassed? Do you not feel like people are going to be looking at you? No, not at all.
Nor should you, no.
No, and that's the thing.
And how much better has that made you feel, and you know, made us all feel?
Yeah,
you know,
listen,
it
still
really
get bad
has.
days. The last few days I've been really down, you know. Last
You
week.
still have dips, yeah.
Still have dips, but you know how to get through them. You know that they're not going to last. Certainly not been on anything. It's been 2.5 years now. But I know I'm going to have bad days. Everyone does. But it's just knowing you've got that support now, and the routine and exercise and all this sort of stuff. But listen, some days nothing works. Some days you feel crap, and you know you want to go to sleep and you want to wake up the next day and go again. Some things, like, there's not a thing that fixes everything.
There's a Stephen Fry one about that, isn't there? About it's like the weather. So some days, you know, the weather's bad. Yeah. And you wake up the next day and the weather's all right again.
Yeah.
And you just have to realise.
No matter what you do, if I feel crap, I go to the gym, talk, whatever, I still feel crap sometimes. People do, and that's fine.
Of course you do. I think everyone does. It's natural, but it's like you say, it doesn't matter who you are. No. It's having to, as you say, be this image. You know, everyone's got this image in their head, like, so that's how you have to present yourself. But you don't. You know what I mean? Just, you're human at the end of the day. Yeah. Doesn't matter if you're a professional goalkeeper or if, you know, you work in a canteen or. We're all the same and we're all human.
Absolutely. I mean, there's obviously a lot of money washing around in football. We all know that. Everyone listening knows that. Do you think, as a collective, football is doing enough around this subject? It's better, isn't it, than it was?
It's better.
Is there still culturally stuff to challenge?
I don't think you can ever do enough. I don't think you can. Yeah, I mean, listen. People talk about the PFA and the PFA. Listen, PFA helped me. Could they have done a lot more? Yes. Yeah. You know, definitely. But the PFA are massively understaffed. You know, they've got the ratios something ridiculous compared to like the NFL, where the ratio's like 1 to 10 or something staff to help players. In England, you've got 55, 60,000 ex and current players. There's not enough staff for the PFA to deal with it. So clubs have got more of a bigger responsibility now. Clubs see the players day in, day out. They see the families, everything like that. So clubs are starting to do that now. Put things in place in-house and out-house, because some won't want to use in-house, because some still will think, well, he's not going to play me, or they're going to think this, they're going to think that. Yeah. But it is starting to change, but still a lot more.
Slow,
like, listen, Liverpool, we'll go back to Liverpool. People say, well, it's because you support them. I know Liverpool support players that left the club years ago. that didn't make it, that come out of the academy, got into trouble, and Liverpool are still trying to help them going forward now. That should be a must for me.
Yeah.
Especially if a kid's been at a club from 6 years old to 16 or 18. That should be a must.
Yeah,
that's
a bit of aftercare,
that's just
basically.
decency.
Yeah.
That's just common decency.
But
for
also,
me.
it feels to me like there should be more around, you're not the only ex-footballer that I've spoken to who said to me, I missed football, and then all of a sudden I was a bit like, well, what's my life doing? Because what you're involved in there, you mentioned it before with Sheffield Wednesday, it's routine, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's routine from when you're a kid up until whatever, 35, 40, whatever it might be. Then all of a sudden you're in the big wide world, and you're like, what now?
I don't know what to do.
What now?
That's what you were
That's
like,
what I tell, like when I speak to players now, I go and do talks, and I'll say, some of these lads might be 19, 20, I'll say, think about what you're going to do after, and they'll be like, I've got 10, 15 years.
Don't
I
need
say,
to worry about
it comes up quick.
Yeah.
Plan early now, that's my advice, plan early. But yeah, clubs definitely need to do a lot more. And the PFA, but like I said, the PFA are massively understaffed to deal with the volume. It's people keep going back to this 1 in 4 thing. I hate this 1 in 4 thing where people struggle. It's rubbish. It's not 1 in 4. For me, it's more like 3 in 4 now. So yeah, PFA definitely, but the clubs now, there needs to be a bigger onus on the clubs. But they are starting to.
You've thrown yourself into a lot of things, I think, Chris, and it's the stuff with the Liverpool Foundation, the stuff with Edgil, Make Talk Your Goal, which you mentioned earlier, the stuff with St. Bede's, loads of other things as well, which I can't reel them all off. We'd be here all day. You speak to people who are in, a dark place a lot. It seems to me, and I've had to go of this myself. I've spoken to you about me, etc., etc. There's never a downside to revealing all this about yourself, is that there's never a downside to talk, and you do feel a weight off, don't you?
God.
Feel
Do you know what I mean?
Feel better. Yeah. And listen, I love walking. You've been on there.
I've tried. I've tried to
You'll
walk
never
with
keep
you.
up with them ever.
That's what I say. That people always, like, whenever they do talks, whenever they get asked, what's the 2 best things you can do? And I always say exercise and talk. And people say, well, everyone says that, but it's true.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's not rocket science. You do feel better, and going on a walk with someone, I don't know, something just makes you talk.
Yeah.
Like when you go on these group walks or whatever like that. But it's the simplest things help you the most.
Yeah.
you don't need to.
And what have you found as well? Because you just talked about there that it ended up affecting you too. What have you found as an effective way to manage your mental health?
Well, I like to run. I go out. I like to exercise. I love going for coffee because I can sit and talk.
Yeah.
I just, that keeps me,
that.
as long as Lucy's happy and he's happy, then I'm happy, sort of thing. I think it's a rippling effect. Now that Chris is on a much better path,
You've got
I
a nice
think we
routine
all
now,
are.
though.
Yeah, we've all sort of got to a point. I still get quite anxious, but I've noticed over the last year, it's improving massively. And I think it comes from that. The fact that he's doing much better now, and my shoulders are starting to, because I was, I couldn't go. I would go out and I'd be worrying, what's he doing at home? What's going to happen? And I was always having that.
Yeah, I was making it difficult for you, weren't I?
Yeah, I was never able to just relax anywhere I went. But over time now, I'm slowly starting to relax. I mean, doing this is not relaxing. I was worried about this today, but I pushed myself up, whereas I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done anything like this. So. Yeah,
but you struggle, it's good for people listening. So you struggle to make phone calls and stuff. And say you got to ring up BT or something like that. You struggle to do that. Don't you?
I suppose what I've learned, if you were to ask me, like anyone who's got anxiety issues I would never dismiss anything anyone said to me as a worry. Even if it was the most trivial thing, I wouldn't dismiss it, because what's trivial to one person isn't to another, but that person might struggle with something else, so
Absolutely.
just let that person talk and just listen to them, and that's, do what you can to make them feel a bit better. So
there's an irony, isn't there, as well, in how a lot of people can feel at times where, you think it's a weakness to talk, but it's not, it's a strength.
Listen, and that comes from there's some horrible people in the world. There is. Listen, social media is a poisonous place. You can use it for the good, but I think 95% of it. But there is some horrible people in the world that get joy from criticising other people and making other people feel bad, and that's probably a part of why people don't come out and ask for help and say things, because they think they're going to get hammered straight, and chances are they might do, because there's some cruel, horrible people in the
But
world.
there'll always be someone that won't
will
and will
help.
listen to you, and you know, and
so
that
forget
one
though. Don't
person
let them
can help.
people win. That's what. But don't let them idiots win. The people that have got nothing better to do than criticise. Don't let them people win.
Yeah.
Do it for yourself, and like Leona says, there is some people that will help you, and some lovely people in the world.
Brilliant stuff. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks for the honest conversation. To everyone listening, watching, we hope this conversation's encouraged you to think about your own mental health and reach out if you need support. Here at Edge Hill, there are a range of services available to you on campus. Our mental health and well-being team is available Monday to Friday, 8:45 to 5 p.m. If you need support, you can contact the Student Services Wellbeing Team during office hours. The phone number is 01695 650 988. You can email mental health and wellbeing at edgehill.ac.uk. You can walk in to the help desk in the Catalyst building. And for more information, you can also go online and visit the mental health and wellbeing page on the Edge Hill website. Campus support is also available 24/7. 365 days a year. So if you need any help from them, you can call them on 01695 584 227, or you can also text 077 859 289 11. We're going to be back with this series of projects. We'll have more guests, more stories to share. But until next time, keep talking, keep listening, and take care of what's in your head.